Hello, this is PubShorts. We are back after a week. I had to take a leave because of some personal emergency, but I have with me Tony O'Rourke. Hi, Tony.
Hi, KK. Good to see you back.
I'm very excited to be
And
back because there are so many things that have happened in the last couple of weeks that we need to talk about. And this episode is PubShorts episode 33 called Black Dog, in reference to this famous song by one of our favorite popular bands, Led Zeppelin. So, Tony,
who doesn't love Led Zeppelin? There's a documentary coming out on Netflix this year called Becoming Led Zeppelin, which I am so looking forward to.
yes, yes, and this is in reference to a very interesting project, a volunteer contribution project in the context of AI and peer review, which we'll talk about very soon. So, my name is Dr. KK, and I'm the innovation officer at Trinka and Enago. And Tony, you could introduce
I'm,
yourself and
of
the
course,
show.
always. Today I'm Tony O'Rourke, Vice President. Always, I don't know why I said today, Vice President of Partnerships here at Enago, and I look after our uh, publishing publisher relationships and universities to a certain extent.
Excellent. So, PubShots is a weekly episodic series. It's you can call it a stream. You can call it a podcast. It is about AI, a language technology, in the context of publishing and all kinds of stories related to research integrity and publishing. Any new developments, we cover all of that, and we are streaming live today on YouTube as well as LinkedIn. And if you are watching us on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel and hit the bell notification icon. And if you find the content interesting, because we are talking about all the main stories including DeepSeek and all sorts of things, so if you find the content interesting, please share it with your friends who might like such content. So Tony.
That's the interesting thing about AI is that such a short period of time, so much has happened.
Right. It is just. I mean, we in this episode we are not specifically talking about DeepSeek, but there is another competitor sort of for DeepSeek within China itself. We'll be talking about that. Everything in the context of obviously publishing.
Yeah,
So, Tony, are you ready for the first news story that we're covering?
of course, of
Okay.
course.
All right. So it is, in fact, not a news story. This is an article titled "Imagining the Ultimate Systems Neuroscience" paper. It is published in the Transmitter as a perspective. It is one of the more fascinating sort of perspectives that I've read. It's written by Mark Humphreys, a computational neurosciences chair, and it imagines a future of publishing and paper track. It tracks the humans entire this paper is about humans entire neural activity and behavior, and that's a paper. And so the main argument here is that the static versions of the paper, that is a PDF and even HTML, which is not quite static, are probably old fashioned publishing models. And basically the author is arguing to have AI bots to handle complex data rather than publishing traditional papers. So I'll take a moment and ask the question: what do you think of this concept?
Oh, well, just generally, I kind of smile to myself. As you know, KK, I've worked in academic publishing for quite a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And in the noughties, I worked for the Institute of Physics, a large physical sciences publisher. And even in the noughties, 2001, 2002, we were talking about how the PDF is dead.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the static PDF doesn't deliver the sort of value that the researcher might need. You know, and here we are, 25 years later, and it's the same topic. You know, I think what this particular paper highlights is that there are ways of delivering academic content, research content much more effectively than the PDF, and that will continue. There will always be new iterations, new versions.
Right. So the argument made by the author is that traditional papers cannot communicate or convey complex data effectively, and current systems neurosciences papers are already very long and complex. And this is one specific field that they're talking about, and the linear format of paper does not suit non-linear science. Very very interesting argument. And basically, future publications might be just researchers publishing data, and people, the readers or the the audience might be querying the data through the AI through AI bots, for example, and even suggest that future research might be starting from such interactions with data using AI bots. So I found this as a very interesting concept. I mean, maybe a couple of decades early in terms of where we are right now, but
No, I don't think it is. I don't think it is. I think a lot of these concepts we're going to see delivered quite soon. And one of the things that it strikes me is that this kind of highlights the importance of the expert. Here we have Mark Humphreys, who's a computational neuroscientist, an expert in his field, talking about what he wants to see, how he wants to see research data delivered to him in his particular field. And I think that what we're going to see a lot more of this is societies, professional societies, publishers creating these specialist channels, unique AI-driven channels that will make, deliver content in the most relevant way for their readers, for their researchers.
Right, but when I read this, the reason why I said 2 decades is because currently, I don't know, do you still read print newspapers?
Yeah.
Right. So I've recently gotten back into the habit because I believe that print newspapers have some sort of legitimacy as opposed to what you might or might not, because fake news can be more easy on the internet. And I've been thinking that a lot of people find it difficult to find the right information even when they're looking for an article. So in terms of science, to find the right information, let's say the truthful information, the narrative that the researchers want to communicate with complex data, if you do not have the human filter, because science is already complex, things are going to be even more difficult, especially for the lay public to interact with data alone. That's my argument.
Absolutely right. And on top of that, I just think what's going to happen, you'll find in certain fields that kind of the human filter, the role of that human filter will be different from subject area to subject area.
Excellent. So let's now go to another interesting development in the field of AI. It is I thought, Tony, when I was preparing for the show, that we had already covered this. So this research paper is a preprint published in Archive. It is titled Generative Adversarial Reviews When LLMs Become the Critic. I believe that we have covered a similar paper, not quite this. So shout out to the Scalene blog, which covers all sorts of AI and innovations in the context of peer review, which is where I picked up this paper from. So keep in mind again that it's a preprint. So let me just read out my notes because the paper is also interesting, and I've opened another tab. So it discusses, this paper discusses peer review process in scientific research and proposes generative agent reviewers using large language models, which is not quite different from many of the things that we have talked about. Now, this is called Generative Adversarial Review. It's called GAR. GAR aims to simulate real peer reviewers, and it uses memory and historical data to create reviewer personas. To me, that's something that I hadn't read too much about. And then it also makes graph-based manuscript representation so that information processing can be faster, and it leverages a lot of external knowledge to assess novelty. So there is a separate novelty module itself. And eventually, I think we've talked about this, Tony, a meta reviewer, that is another version of the AI, evaluates the individual AI reviews and then sort of collates and aggregates, and that is a meta reviewer, and eventually determines the suitability of publication of the research paper. So what do you think about all of this before I jump to the actual paper itself?
The only thing I can say is just how quickly this area is developing. I think even 2 years ago, the concept of AI-based peer review was a non-starter. And now we're having conversations about how our AI tools can be used to support publisher peer review workflows. And this is another interesting extension again.
Right. So let me go to the actual preprint. This is an HTML version. I have seen some typos in this, I think. So keep that in mind while you read or see the screen.
Well, it is a preprint.
Yeah, it is a preprint after all, but at the same time, I think there's an HTML conversion that Archive. You see this banner here, so I'm not sure if there is a problem with that. Anyway, so this is a nice little infographic to sort of represent what the paper is proposing, but the paper is also talking about the overview of the generative agent reviewer model. So it is basically a graph-based representation. I think it's here, and they are talking about different large language models, and a multi-round review process, which is basically having, I guess, AI agents to review over many rounds, and a meta reviewer component that we've summarizing all these reviews. Now, apart from that, Tony, the cool thing is the reviewer persona module, which basically extracts reviewer traits like strictness, expertise, focus area, tone, etc., from historical review data. And I think it uses the ICLR data. It's there somewhere, but let me just finish my points. And then it also has a memory module which stores past reviews. So let's say we have already had many reviews come in, and it uses that information to improve itself. And eventually the novelty model, which is something I believe is very important in the context of peer review. So the novelty module evaluates the originality of a manuscript by extracting keywords and comparing with external work. So we are going beyond the system and querying the vast knowledge that the human race has built, and eventually generates a novelty score. So far, are you where are you with these last three things that I mentioned: the reviewer persona, memory module, and the novelty module?
Well, I can say that the last of those three, the novelty module, is something which I know is very much in demand.
Mm-hmm.
Something which publishers are asking about on a regular basis is how novel is this piece of research? How does it impact on the state of knowledge in
Right.
any given subject area? So I'm interested to see whether this becomes a reality, because I think this will help in so many areas.
Right. So there is a comparison. There is a heat map as well. These are the different types, including one of them is a human reviewer itself. I think that is based on historical records. And in general, the performance of this GAR is better than the human review. It basically won in this comparison. It beat every other version of an AI based reviewer, and even the human is the argument made in the paper. So overall, it is a very positive sort of move in the context of AI and peer review, and I'm very excited. I hope you share the excitement of this with me, Tony.
Well, the persona thing is interesting as well. How is it going to emulate, the traits and characteristics of an individual researcher? The great thing about peer review at the moment is that it's not just about the knowledge of the reviewer, but
Right.
also their kind of understanding of what the key fundamentals of their subject area are, and how that can be emulated by AI.
Right. So remember that the term peer reviewer itself, can it be used in the context of AI reviewing, is something that we'll discuss in our next episode as per our agenda. But we'll take it when that comes. But
Yeah, well, sweet.
I'm now going to the story or the project on the basis of which we have named the episode Black Dog. So this is the Black Spatula project. So Tony, we don't need to mention why this is called the Black Spatula project, because I think everybody is aware of it. But this is a fascinating thing. Again, I think I came across it on Scalene or Journalogy, I don't remember, but it explores. It's a volunteer project. Volunteers come in to evaluate different types of chat-based, I think, generative AI tools. And evaluate whether they can be good like how a human reviewer is. So people are volunteering to do this. So this is the home for it. It is an initiative by Steve Newman after I think he saw something on social media about the latest models, and this project offers several means for people to sort of get in, including WhatsApp and Discord and a GitHub thread. So it asks people to come and offer their findings, maybe the prompts that they are using, as well as if they are experts, to cross check whether the AI has done things right. So far, what do you think about this? And what do you think about the name?
Oh, well, I think this is coming from somebody who clearly understands AI. Steve Newman is reasonably well known. I think didn't he find Rightly, or one of those AI based writing tools.
Yeah.
He's got a real background in this particular area, and what he's discovering is that the real value of AI is when it's bundled up with human collaboration. That there's the human input is adding value to the AI. So using these kinds of collaborative models, I think is very interesting.
Yeah, so one example that I can talk about is this is the only document as to I've checked some of the shared spreadsheets and there is some information, but this is a good example of a paper that was published and is retracted.
Yeah.
And the reason for retraction is that the Mendelian randomization techniques discovered a kind of stratification bias that was not easily recognizable, and one that was hard even for casual inference epidemiologists to catch initially. Now, this is evidence of how good the models have become. So I think the person who uploaded these findings, there are prompts below, but they have experimented both with DeepSeek's R17B 7 billion parameter model as well as the O1 preview, and they mentioned that even though both identified some that the bias is a problem in the research, but only the O1 preview that was able to mention the problems with non-linear Mendelian randomization and the potential for stratification bias, which the argument that I'm trying to make is that this is something that an expert in the field of, let's say, the research area can only find. And now the latest, these are not even the latest models, but they are able to at least come close to a human reviewer. And I think I'll be very interested in knowing what others are finding, and I'll also hope to contribute some of these reviews myself. So Tony, your
So
thoughts so far?
this is a paper that was retracted. Is that correct?
Yes. This
Yeah.
this
So again, this reinforces for me the real value of some of these AI tools, even early versions, as you start DeepSeek 1771B and O1, in terms of reinforcing human decisions, giving justification supporting those retraction decisions.
right.
So I applaud it.
And if at all, Tony, you're wondering what sort of a prompt that people are using, these are prompts are also provided, and we have discussed the need for prompts to be provided so that people can replicate. But these sort of system prompts, user prompts, and as well as model instructions and all the detailed things that are being provided are very useful for me. These are some of the ways in which even I write very long prompts whenever we need the latest models to do something and find something sort of equivalent to what a human would find. So it's a very useful tool. I recommend people check it. And if you have the time, if you are interested in this sort of a thing, please consider contributing your time and efforts for the Black Spatula project.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, so I am now going to the last, I think, main article that we have. This is titled, it's an editorial published, I believe, in Nature and Science of Sleep. It's a journal, and it is titled Peer Review in the Artificial Intelligence Era, a call for developing responsible integration guidelines. So very interesting. So this call is for obviously integration of AI in the context of peer review, and to ease the burden of reviewers, human reviewers, because there is a problem, because there's a lot more papers than there are reviewers, and the ratio, the discrepancy seems to be increasing, but with caution. That's the most important thing. And AI tools like ChatGPT offer potential benefits but have limitations, especially in assessing novelty and ethical concerns. We have already talked about it. And the article stresses on the need for guidelines to balance innovation with integrity in the peer review process. So, I mean, this is pretty straightforward, but I thought it was an interesting editorial to sort of bring it all back, seeing that we still need responsible integration. So, my question to you, Tony, you interact with a lot of clients, including publishers, in terms of integrating some of our solutions in their workflow. So, what are some of the concerns or some of the challenges that they find?
Yeah, I think the challenges are, these aren't new. The huge growth in submissions over the last 5 years, the challenge in finding or agreeing reviewers to provide reports on papers, the increasing difficulty in getting reviewers, the desire to want to create an experience for a reviewer that he or she will want to repeat, a positive experience. What can the publisher do to support the reviewer during their review process to make it as seamless and as pleasant, as positive an experience as possible, both for the reviewer and for the author? So there's a whole raft of things. I think we're going to see a lot of change is too strong a word, but I think we are going to see a lot of progress in terms of tools that will support the reviewer that are delivered by the publisher over the next 2 to 3 years.
Right, we talked about novelty finding in the context of peer review. Are also, publishers worried about if at all we integrate an AI system, how can it legitimately, reliably predict novelty?
Yeah.
All right.
We did, and it's one of these things that's it's almost like the holy grail in a sense. If you've got a tool that can that can definitively say whatever the scale is, this paper is novel, and these are the reasons why it is novel, and therefore does it support the scope and aims of the journal that it's being submitted to? I think is a very exciting development.
Right. So, are you ready for some quick hits, starting with Bluesky? Remember, we talked about it.
I'm a Bluesky user now.
Yes,
Ever
yes.
since it's played one.
So this is another Nature article on the I guess the prevalence of Bluesky user base in the context of academic research. So 70% of the respondents to a Nature poll. Nature, the journal poll, mentioned that they use Bluesky and find Bluesky more welcoming and science friendly than X. And the platform is obviously growing. It's 27 million viewers. And what the users seem to find interesting or different is that it is a less toxic environment, and it's more collegial and supportive. So my question to you, I think we talked about it. Why should somebody remain on, Twitter or not? But in terms of, I'm thinking that commercial in terms of publicizing your research, because I think Twitter or X has still a large user base, and there's a lot of eyeballs and earballs. Yeah,
it's in the hundreds of millions, isn't it?
Yes. So is that the only reason why I think researchers should still continue to be on X or Twitter, or is there another reason? I mean, what are your thoughts on it?
I like the fact there's more than one possible choice for the researcher to use. There's X, Twitter, there's Bluesky, there's Mastodon. There are a variety of other tools that are available out there. I think it's important to have that choice, and I think anything that can disrupt the market slightly is potentially a good thing. So if it makes if this is seen as being more collegial and less collegial and more open, and less biased, then maybe we'll see changes in some of the other platforms.
Well, OpenAI has launched ChatGPT Gov for US government agencies. This is in between all the news from China with all the new models and everything. So this is a sort of an enterprise version of ChatGPT for government use cases. And this is sort of a response to the DeepSeek news, in my opinion. So Tony, what do you think? As in, is it a good, as in terms of the government is starting to use it? We have now I think the barrier would be, obviously the funding agencies and all sorts of I think US federal funding sources to also sort of, I think, okay at least the use of AI in whatever scope that we can use it for. So what are your thoughts on this development?
I think this is a actual progress. This is the US government, and you'll start to see other governments as well adopting these tools to manage the sort of tasks that we know AI can do very, very well. So it's a natural evolution.
Right. It seems like a lot of government agencies are already using, the US government agencies, and I believe that a similar moves are also there in at least China and India, I think. But it all depends on the type of AI that is being recommended to you. So that's something that we'll have to keep an eye on. And talking about China, we have another language model being released. Alibaba's Qwen 2.5 Max challenges US tech giants, a story from VentureBeat, and it reshapes enterprise AI. That's the title of the paper. It promises reduced costs and improved efficiency for businesses, and potentially reshapes enterprise AI strategies from the context of DeepSeek has its own problems. We'll talk about it in our next episode. So what do you think as another AI player that offers cheap and efficient models threatening US AI companies? So China has at least two big models, as in famous models.
the more choice, the more competitive the market, and I think the better it is for the user. A month ago, nobody, if people were talking about these large LLMs, these large AIs, it was Chat GPT or nothing, wasn't it really? And now, it's DeepSeek, it's Quen, it's Llama. There's so much choice out there, and I think it's only positive for the market.
Right. So the last quick hit, it's a very interesting. I kept it as a last one because it is related to the UK. This is a Substack title, "No More Marking." I believe that marking is referring to the practice of
Marking,
teachers marking papers, student
yeah, yeah.
papers. So this is obviously the Substack is related to this, but what they are the current the story that we want to cover, I think it's the end of this, is the human in the loop part of it. So basically, the Substack is about how you can, as an AI, can be integrated in educational workflows. So there was obviously conversations about whether students can use it to write, at least to help write essays, but then there was a problem with hallucinations and inaccuracies. But currently what they have settled on is a very innovative review mechanism where the teacher, uh, regardless of how the student has written the essay or the assignment, will read, evaluate just like how a human teacher would evaluate, but provide an audio review. And this audio review will be transcribed by an AI and will be used to guide its own evaluation of the paper itself. And I thought it was a fascinating thing, and it is from the UK itself. As in, teachers are, this project is based in the UK. So, what are your thoughts, Tony, about this?
My son's a teacher, and I know he's mentioned more than once his concerns how the tools that are being used in the classroom increasingly are taking away from the expertise that these teachers not have themselves. I think the human in the loop element, I think, is still key in terms of driving and directing the use of these tools. But if it's a means of making the outputs better and more accurate, then keep going.
All right, that brings us to the end of the episode, PubShorts episode 33, Black Dog. So, question about Led Zeppelin records. How many do you have?
On Led Zeppelin records,
Yeah.
I have all of the albums in multiple formats. So on tape, on cassette, on vinyl. I have box sets. They're one of my favorite. I think that anyone who likes 70s rock music, it's got to be one of their favorite bands.
Excellent. So, Tony, if suppose somebody is listening to us for the first time, where can they find more about you, me, and
If you're
Enago and
listening to us
Trika?
for the first time, where have you been? This is episode 34.
It's 33.
Sorry.
Yeah, 33.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So yes, if you want to find out more about, if you want to see all the previous episodes of PubShorts, you can go to LinkedIn or to YouTube. Check out our YouTube channel. If you like it, please press the like bar or follow us, and you'll see all the previous episodes on there. If you want to contact me or KK directly, you can get us via our LinkedIn profiles, or indeed you can contact me directly at tonio@enago.com.
Yes, and there is a dedicated playlist that we maintain. If suppose you want to catch up about what we talked about DeepSeek 2 weeks ago, so please go check it out. It's on YouTube. And yes, until the next time, which will be hopefully very soon. This is Dr. KK signing off on behalf of Tony as well as the rest of the team that helps us bringing. We'll see you in the next one. Bye, Tony.
Bye.